All right. Uh-oh. I think we're having a problem with one of our destinations. All right. So we're live. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Kimberly Alexander. I'm coming to you from Houston, Texas, and I am joined this evening by our Mental Health Awareness Month, Mental Health Warriors. I am with Joan and Marvin Anderson. I am so elated to be sitting and having this conversation. I wish the subject matter was different, but as you hear the story being told, you will understand why we had to share it. So Marvin was convicted when he was 18 years old of several heinous crimes that he never committed. Um, we will hear the story of how that came about and what happened. And Joan is his mom, who stood 10 toes down and had her son's back. I'm happy to report that all of these years later, and after about 20 years of fighting, Marvin won his freedom uh, with the help of the Innocence Project of New York. And so we are so happy to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Um,
You're welcome.
Thank you for having us, Kimberly.
so I want to start out really before the conviction, before all of this happened. It's really important to me to highlight the before all of this, Marvin and Joan,
Hmm.
because you had a life before all of this happened. You had goals, you had dreams, you had aspirations. Um, I'm sure Joan, in so many ways, when this happened, your life itself came to a halt as well. So tell us a little bit about what growing up was like.
First of all, thank you. Thank everyone for having us on tonight. For me, during that time, 18 years old, young kid, still in high school, just enjoying the summer, having fun. Not only that, I was also volunteering in the fire department in our community.
Mm.
So spending time either at the fire station or at work or either playing softball with the church, I was just enjoying life, an everyday, normal 18-year-old kid life, and prior to me getting arrested or questioned about this, um, I had a girlfriend
Mhm.
and she was white, you know, and we decided, that summer it would be easier for us to move closer to our job, which was at Kings Dominion Amusement Park at the time, than keep traveling back and forth from Richmond every day. So we did that and, you know, moved close to my mom. Not too close, but we was close enough. But we moved closer to her, and they said just doing it every day, normal 18-year-old, you know, not a care in the world, don't think about what's going to happen the next day or the day after that, just living in the moment, and that's how it was.
Mhm. What were you said you'd like to play softball? You were volunteering with the fire department. What were your goals post high school graduation? What were you and your mom talking about?
Well, for me, I've always wanted to be a professional fireman, and
Okay.
and at that time, the county that I lived in, they was just beginning to start a new program, which allowed the volunteers to be a part of and become a professional fireman.
Mhm.
So I just signed up for that program. Very excited about it and everything. And when this happened, you know, the doors was closed.
Wow.
There was, people that I looked up to, respected me. It's like they didn't want to have anything to do with me, you know, just because of what the news media had put out there. Um, I was arrested for sexual assault on a white woman and all of that. So I maintained friends with them, communicate with them, and all of that. Just to hear them say that with everything going on with you, we can't help you or have you get into the academy. So that was placed on hold.
And Joan, what was it like for you? What was Marvin like as a child?
Um, he was a good boy. It was too be it a brother, and Marvin was more like kind of quiet, and you'd see him drawing, and he'd sit back and, what are you doing? Nothing. And then all of a sudden pops up this picture. Very good drawer, and played a lot of activities, softball, and so in the fire department. He went there at an early age. He finished his firefighter one course and was given to do the second course. This is what happened. So he was a good boy. Yeah. Yeah, his brother was a social butterfly. He was just, yeah.
So was it
But
just
they were
the
very
boys
close.
growing up?
They were very close, very close. But
Okay.
he was more sociable, talking to people and old people, young people, all people, And but they all, they rode their motorcycles.
Mm.
They had started out with a small motorcycle, and then they got the big ones. So they had a good life. They had a good life. Yeah. Until this happened. And then his brother got killed in a car accident 4 years after this happened.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was locked up 4 years, and his brother, him and his friend was in a fatal car accident. So
Marvin, were you able to go to that funeral?
Ooh. No, but
they did everything they could,
yeah, they waited until the day of the service
Mm-hmm.
to inform me that I wouldn't be allowed to attend. And like I said, I had talked to my mom all that week, and they was getting everything lined up for me to attend the service.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, they called me down to administration and said, "Hey, I'm sorry to say, but you're not allowed to attend your brother's service."
Mhm.
So
They said it would cost. They told me all kinds of excuses. It would cost us. It's not a problem to transport him there. And they just made up excuses and last day. For the nature of your crime,
mm-hmm.
you will not be able to attend. Why do you have guards? Yeah.
Wow. How did that affect you, Marvin?
I didn't. I would say that was the exact time that made me realize I had no control of my life.
Mm-hmm.
I say that because when I went in, like I said, I've never been in trouble with the law before.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, the only involvement I had with the law was when I was in the fire service, working with them on the scene or something.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and when all of this came about, I was thinking that, hey, we got all this evidence to prove my innocence. Nothing's going to happen. This is going to be water under the bridge. Well, that changed. And like I said, when I went into the correction center, I got back in school, started attending college, and started taking other trades. So that was one of the means for me to keep my mind off of what and where I was at. It kept me focused. So, and when my brother passed, and they waited till the day of the service to tell me that I wasn't allowed to attend. That really made me say, hey, you have no control of what's going on with your life. Only thing you can do is just be strong, survive, and keep praying that one day the truth will be known.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you to move your iPad over just a little bit so that we can see your mom's whole face. There we go. There you go.
I saw it was just halfway.
Thank you for that. That is, that's really traumatizing. I think it's interesting that for 4 years you still kind of felt like, okay, I'm here, I'm going to learn a trade, I'm going to take advantage of this, for lack of a better way of putting it, as much as you can. How long were you incarcerated before you were convicted?
Before I was convicted,
Mm-hmm.
I stayed at the jail, what,
In Hanover for
maybe,
about 3 or 4 months.
yeah, not long, 3 or 4 months in the county jail.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was, like I said, I was transferred into the state system to a receiving unit, stayed there a couple months, and then I was transferred to the main prison unit. So,
Well,
my trial was in December, and by June or July, I was actually at the prison camp, where
Wow.
I remained there for 15 years. So,
And I would suspect that it's almost hard to take it seriously, right? You're like you said, water under the bridge. We have all of this evidence to show that I didn't commit this crime. What steps did you take to try to prove your innocence prior to being convicted? Did you have a paid attorney? What were you doing?
we went through 7 attorneys.
Wow.
yeah.
Went through every court except the United States Supreme Court in Washington, D.C.
Wow.
And actually, being that my mom mentioned that, my case is actually still on their desk or in their records of being appeared before them. Um, the steps that was taken, like I said, when all this first happened, we hired an attorney. He was a paid attorney. He was a man that knew the community. I guess in a sense, he informed us that he was aware of the people that work in the court system, in the judges and all that. So that supposedly had made things a little better as far as my case.
Mm-hmm.
And all this time that we were, bringing him information about what we're hearing from the community, he was writing all this information down. And when we, go to court for preliminary hearings and all of that, each time the victim testified or the question that was asked to her, can you describe your attacker? And she said yes, and he asked her to please describe your attacker, to us in the court. And I mean, she testified maybe 4 or 5 different times. And each time she described her attacker as a very light-skinned complexion person, short, kinky hair, no scratches or blemishes in his face, straight white teeth, all of this. Now, for your viewers, I wouldn't consider myself a very, very light-skinned complexion person. So, and like I said, each time she testified, that was her description that she gave to the courts. Now, when it came to the trial date, we had trial, and that question was brought to her attention again, and she described the exact same thing. And the Commonwealth attorney asked her, is the person that attacked you in this courtroom? She said yes. He asked her, could she stand up and identify the person? She stood up and she identified me. Okay. Now, my attorney, who was sitting directly beside me, were at least 3 shades lighter than my complexion, and about the same complexion of the person who actually committed the crime. But yet she still identified me as her attacker. So, we have an attorney that my family had paid to do his job, and all during the preliminary hearings and leading up to the court date, he's informing us that we have this evidence, we got these so many witnesses that can testify where your whereabouts, what you was doing, what time you left. We got your fiance who can testify what time you returned home, and all of this. Well, the only person who testified in my behalf was my fiance and my mother. And when my mom testified, she testified that I was at her home, washing the car, and coming into her home, talking to my baby sister at the time, and then I left and went home. But when the cross-examination came about, the Commonwealth attorney made it sound or appear that my mother would lie and do anything to keep me from going to prison. Now, they don't know my mother. This is a woman that birthed me, raised me, and one thing that she hates is a liar. So, and she said that on stand. She said, I'll do anything for my children, but I will not lie for my children. And the jury did not believe her. So, and then, you know, towards the end of the trial, this is my attorney, the one that my family had paid for. He didn't allow me to testify. When we all had agreed that I would take the stand and testify, be able to tell my side of the story. Well, he did not do that. So my mother didn't find out till later on the reason why he did not do that, because the real perpetrator, he had represented him a few years earlier on the exact same crime.
Wow.
So if that had been brought out in court, it would have been known as conflict of interest, because he cannot represent two of the same people that on the same type of crime. So he chose to protect that person instead of defend me. That's the attorney that I had.
So I want to go back for a minute, because you said a lot there. You gave a lot of information. Tell us where this happened. What city did this happen?
Virginia, Hanover County.
In Hanover County, Virginia. Okay. And so did you have a jury trial or a bench trial?
I had a jury trial.
Okay.
Yeah. In these United States, according to our law system, it states that every person is entitled to have a jury of their peers. I didn't.
What were the demographics of your jury?
My jury consisted of 8 women, 4 men, all white, from the ages of 45 to maybe 60. So the crime was against a young white female in a rural area where some racial tension, but not as bad as it would have been in the 70s or the 60s. But you still had that present still in this town. So,
and you said that the victim identified you.
Yes.
Can I tell her why she identified you? She
The-
got your
The only reason the victim identified me was because the arresting officer came to my job and took my work ID,
she was black.
and which was a colored picture. And they showed this picture to
7-6.
they showed these pictures to the victim. Now, each time they showed the victim a set of mugshots, the other picture was all black and white, with the exception of my color ID. In each different set they showed her. And the day that they questioned me, they came to my job, questioned me, they asked me did I know anything about, a young lady being attacked and beaten in the community. And my answer to them was that I heard people talking about it at my softball game that morning. Other than that, that's all I knew.
Wow.
And that's when they asked me, would I be willing to go take a polygraph test? Now, the only thing I knew at that time about polygraph tests and examination was that you tell the truth, it'll be known, and they'll let you go. Well, in order for to take the polygraph test, I had to go down to the county lockup. And on the way to the county lockup, they stopped by the victim's apartment. And I sat there and watched this officer take my color ID, goes into her apartment, and comes back out, and we proceed down to the county lockup. I get to the county lockup. That's when they informed me that they couldn't do a polygraph test because it would take too long to set up. Would I be willing to stand in a live lineup? I had nothing to hide, so I agreed to do so. And within 10 minutes, the victim came down. She walked in the room. She looked at everyone. and she walked out. They brought her back into the room. She looked at everyone once again. She walked out. And one of the officers came into the room and he asked everyone, all the other inmates to be excused, and they left, and I'm standing there. And he closed the door, then he come back in. And as soon as he walked through the door, I looked at him, I said, she picked me. And he didn't say anything, he just stood there and looked at me. I said, she identified me. And he goes, well, why you think she did? I said, because I know she did. From that moment, I knew I was going to prison. There was no ands, ifs, and buts about it. I knew from that moment, when she identified me in that lineup, that I was going to prison.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the New Talk for Moms of Black Boys. We are having these hard conversations because they're necessary. These stories need to be told. And we are talking this evening with Marvin and Joan Anderson, our featured mental health warriors for the month of May. We hear all the time, and as a mom I have two Black sons, 25 and almost 18, and we hear all the time, but if you just comply, it'll come out right if you just comply. And so you complied, you showed up, and, they asked you to do a polygraph test, and, that didn't work out, and they asked you to stand in the lineup, and you stood in the lineup, and you told the truth, not just your truth. You told the truth. Your mom testified on your behalf and told the truth. And yet you still were on this 20-year journey to reclaiming your name, who you are. And really, to a large extent, I would imagine having to restart life. Joan, what was all of this like for you? What did you have to put on hold? What did you have to stop? What did you have to learn, for your good kid to keep the good fight going?
First thing, I lost my job working for Hanover County school system.
Wow.
I lost my job. It was hard because I had other children younger than him. But I did what I had to do. I gave up a lot to do what I had to do for him. And they understood. It just bothered me about the justice system. It was just so wrong. Even with the arresting officer, he was a Black officer, but it didn't matter the color, but he knew very well that Marvin didn't commit this crime. They said the only reason they picked him out because he was the only Black boy that lived in Ashland with a white girlfriend.
Wow.
So you see, the color of your skin makes a big difference. I don't care where you are. But I just had to do what I had to do. I just had to fight. I cried for days, and then one day I just woke up and said, stop crying and start fighting. And that's what I did. But it was a fight that you thought had no end, but it did have an ending. Yeah, but
what was the reason that they took your job? What was the reason that you lost your job?
They made all kinds of lies and excuses, and that I wasn't performing in my job, and I had an aide because I was the first person in Hanover County to transport the special needs. And then I went to unemployment, and then they brought a county assistant attorney to to fight against me at the unemployment. And it ended up, I won it because the man said, this is nothing about her job. This is something personal. And I told him, I said, it is personal. And I told them what had happened. But, I guess it was, in God's eyes, it was for the better for me. And I moved, I lost my housing. And so I moved into Henrico County, and that was it. We did just fine. The kids all went to school and graduated from high school and went to college. So we did just fine, with the exceptions of Maurice getting killed in the car accident. But it was hard. It was very hard. And I would go to the correction center every state holiday. every weekend. Out of the 15 years that he was there,
Mm-hmm.
I only missed 2 days.
Wow.
And my children and I, we would carve food, and but it was just hard. It was just hard, and you look around at all the young men that's in there, and you're wondering how many of them are innocent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but I did what I had to do.
Moms of Black Boys United, we call ourselves a coalition of moms, and we are fierce advocates of the Black man. We are fierce advocates for our sons. And there is no greater testament to that than 15 years of going back and forth and only missing 2 days.
2 days because I was sick like now, with bronchitis. But I mean, that's all I had to look forward to, was getting up and fixing food, and my daughters and Maurice hated to go because he was sitting. I'm just looking around to see how I can break him out of here. I said, well, you can't break him out. But he would hate to go. He would hate to go, but he would go. And so just preparing everything that he wanted to eat, pig feet, anything that he wanted to eat. I would go through another town to pick up pizza, not just for him, but for other inmates. I had to pay a toll, so I always kept my toll money aside. I made sure I had enough money to buy other inmates sodas. I did what I needed to do, just not for him, but for the rest of the guys that did not have people to come to visit them. But again, it was very hard. It was hard. All you did was go to a correctional center. My children go to a correctional center. My grandchildren go into a correctional center from little things like this. 15 years. That's a long time to be incarcerated for a crime you knew nothing about. Nothing.
What did your mother's dedication mean to you, Marvin?
It meant a lot. And I was just getting ready to speak on that because, I still consider myself as an old-fashioned country boy.
Well, you talking about pig feet, you an old-fashioned country boy for real.
Oh yeah. Because I've always spent a lot of my youth time around my grandfather, my great uncles, and just listening to them, how they was raised and brought up and all of that. And my grandfather used to always tell me, said, boy, if you ever want to get ahead in life, you got to work for it, which is a true statement. Mm-hmm. And when I got incarcerated, having my mom come down as much as she did, and not only to see me, but she was also being a mother to other inmates. Mm-hmm. Even if they were guilty of the crime that they was there for, but she was also being a mother. And if you think back, that is what our Black community during the day was about. The community raised the kids. So I felt blessed. The fact that she was there every day that the gate swung open to see me. I tried my best to tell her, hey, Mom, take a break. She refused. But I've seen a lot of young people come in during my time there, and their family is there, seeing them, and all of a sudden that family just disappeared. My mom never disappeared. She was there every moment during my incarceration.
Yeah, I can't imagine how hard that really was, But I also imagine that probably went a long way for you making friends, because the kind of crime we didn't share. You were convicted of rape, sodomy,
theft.
2 counts of rape, sodomy, robbery, and abduction. And
210 years. 10 years for stealing a quarter.
Yeah. So I think I know where you're leading with this. How did I survive in there? My first week, once I reached the main camp, I cried myself to sleep every night. And I questioned not only my faith, but I questioned God himself. Why me? That was a question that I just constantly kept asking, why is this happening to me? And my grandmother would always tell me, God has a reason for everything. We just may not know what that reason may be, but he will reveal that reason or why every individual go through what they go through. But being 18 years old, I needed to know right now, but that didn't happen. When you're inside, you have to learn different life skills as far as what you used to living on the street. You will have to pick your friends wisely. You will have to pick friends that they got your back as well as you got their back. 2 days in, I had met a guy over at the receiving unit, and we became best friends. And he's from Virginia Beach area. I'm from Richmond area. Never met each other until we was incarcerated. So we became best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And we had each other back, and as time went on, like I said, you observe, you see what crowds are doing what to stay away from, and all of that. And as time went on, I met, other inmates, and we just became our own little family, we protected each other. And even to this day, the first guy that I met, folks, we used to call him Papa Smurf. Him and I still friends today. And the other friend that I have that we communicate at least once a week, sometimes twice a week, whatever, just through my case alone, it helped prove his innocence.
Wow.
So and actually Thomas spent 27 years incarcerated before DNA was allowed to exonerate him. And like I said, if it wasn't for me getting exonerated and, in a sense, forcing the governor at that time to go back through the archives and have the medical examiner look through the records, Thomas may have be still locked up.
Wow.
Or still be fighting for his chance of making parole.
That's amazing. We have something called the Grace Campaign here at MOBB United, and it talks about lots of things, believing our children, really kind of encapsulating our sons, that to show that they are cared for, that even when you make a mistake, that it's okay. And I love to hear you say, Joan, that even for the young men, whether they were guilty or innocent, you shared love because that was necessary. Full transparent moment. I'm a bit distracted. No, seriously, because I am literally receiving text messages right now that my son is in custody. They have my 17-year-old son who fit the description.
Your son?
My son. That's why I keep looking down. I am literally receiving text messages right now, and had to text a friend to check on him to find out what is going on. But he is being accused of trespassing at a store, and now an officer is running his background. He's 17.
Mm-hmm.
But these are the moments, like my heart is in my stomach, because these are the kinds of moments that can go so drastically wrong. So I'm sitting and I'm having a conversation.
It only takes a moment.
That's right. It only takes a moment, and I'm getting a blow by blow narration of exactly what's happening.
Who's checking on him? Who's checking on him?
One of my closest friends is checking on him, and she can hear the entire conversation. So she said, my son is being respectful and answering the officer, yes sir, no sir, that they're checking him for warrants. And they know he is on the phone with his auntie right now. And so it is
scary.
Scary, and it is far too often the story that these kinds of things are happening because he was sitting in front of my house waiting for me to go pick him up.
Wow.
And that's what he's doing right now. He was sitting in front of the house waiting for me to go and pick him up. So I apologize for
no, that's fine.
In any way.
You are being a mother, a parent.
Yes.
Like I said, I couldn't imagine what my mother went through when all this first happened. It's something I never asked her because I know as a parent, I have 3 kids myself, and I just never tried to imagine the pain that she went through, trying to figure out. And I can feel your pain because incidents like this happens every day, mostly to our Black and Hispanic children. This is what this community go through every day, and people do not realize this, that it happens every day.
So when they say he was trespassing?
Just now.
Well, I mean, where is he trespassing?
They said a convenience store.
Wow.
Trespassing at a convenience store, something about there was a disturbance. And now they are running something and asked him to wait. So that was the last information that I have.
Now you're doing this podcast.
I'm doing this podcast, and I'm gonna keep on doing this podcast because
it's important.
It's real life.
Yeah.
This is real life. This is what it's like, ladies and gentlemen, for moms of Black boys. This is it. This is it right here. This is what.
And people don't believe. I tell people all the time that we can't help that we're Black.
Yeah. But
the color of our skin plays a role in all of this.
Yep.
I mean, it's just not all Black boys that's been incarcerated or been exonerated. There's some Hispanics or it's some white, but it's more Black boys, and Black women, So
and it is not an accident that we make up 13-14% of the population, but 60% of the jail population.
And we can't help it.
That's not an accident, and it's not an accident that there were 8 black and white photos and 1 color photo. That's not an accident.
Each time you slip, you put a colored photo. It's called tinted photo ID into array of a photo spread with the exact picture. That's telling me that's him.
Yeah.
And the thing about it was her attacker had broke up her glasses, and supposedly she wasn't able to see that well. But you put that picture there each time. And I basically hold one person. Roy Anderson is the police officer that started all this mess. If you're looking for promotion, you don't go destroy anybody's life. And the word on the street that he was trying to get a promotion, a new promotion. So, whoever looks at this podcast some people will probably hate me, but I don't care. I have more people that like me than hate me or dislike me. But it's probably going to step on some shoes and toes, but I don't care. It took my livelihood away, raising my young children, and his too. I got to lay up and worry about him every day, that nobody hurts him in prison, just because you're there and just because they can do it. Yeah. But it's crazy. I mean, even with the Commonwealth attorney, when we had lunch break, and so they had to go back, I guess, to another holding cell. And the guy that really committed the crime was in the court. And I said to him, my sister-in-law and we went out. And I said to him, I said, please don't put Marvin in the cell with John Otis Lincoln. He said, why? I said, you know why? He said, well, we know who committed the crime. It's left up to your attorney to prove it.
Wow.
But you would send an innocent somebody to jail because you got to have somebody, and it just hurts me even now when I see exonerates or I see people that's just coming out, been in jail of 39, 40, 47 years.
Yes.
It hurts because it's never going to stop. It's never going to stop.
And it's I want to hope that it will.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that it will.
I want to hope that it will. I want to hope that the dehumanization of Black men and boys in particular will end. I want to keep the faith. I do this work because I don't want a Marvin. I don't want a Philando Castile. I don't want an Alton Sterling. I don't want to be you. And I mean that in the most respectful way I can say it, because it is so traumatizing.
But DNA came admissible in 2000 and what?
Long before me.
Yeah, in the late 90s. They used it to convict, but then they found a way to use it to exonerate. But that's been a long time. And we just had a lady come out 27 years with a man. There was 5, 6 new exonerees, been in jail 40 some years. How do you do that?
It's very easy. That's
you got to go back to all these new judges and new DAs or Commonwealth or whatever they call them, to go back to all this caseload to find out this person didn't have good representation, nor you did not do what you were supposed to do in this case. And after 40 some years, bang, you go home. You've been in there since you're about 20.
Yeah.
And that's the scary part, because it just happens every day.
How long did it take you guys? And you mentioned you've been to every court besides the U.S. Supreme Court. How long did it take you guys to get these appeals and all of that stuff together?
We go to court and it says, which saying, but our hands are tied. That's all I could ever hear was our hands are tied. So it was something that wasn't right. If your hands are tied, the county destroyed the evidence. They destroyed the evidence for the DNA, which wasn't admissible then to be exonerated. Mm-hmm. But what happened with Marvin was the serologist took his folder and concealed every swab that no air could get to it. And that's how they found out, because she was supposed to throw it away and she didn't throw it away. They threw it away when she sent it back to Hanover County, the police department. So there was nothing. I mean, they didn't do the fingerprinting on the bicycle. They put that in an old shed. I had to pay a lot of money for a detective to come down from Mount Airy, Maryland, to to check the bike, and they all had been smudged.
Wow.
It wasn't meant for him to come home. It was just meant for him to just go to jail and rot, but they just didn't know.
They sure didn't. They sure did not. Ah,
No.
I know that's right. They sure didn't know. So you mentioned it cost you a lot of money. Altogether, we didn't even touch on that. Altogether, how much money did it cost you?
Wow.
It cost a lot of money, but we had, well, you call it a GoFundMe now, but that's not what you call it years ago. People sent money from all over the United States, even what the inmates in different correction centers could send. And they would send it to the bank. And my aunt would go to the bank every Monday morning and pick up this big box of envelopes with money in it. And we had like a legal fund. So, there's GoFundMe. That's the new term. And that helped. And then my parents helped. And we had dinners, and I sold dinners and stuff like that to make money and raffle off TVs, and yeah, it was hard.
Mhm.
Yep. So and then with the Innocent Project, you don't have to pay them anything.
Right.
Nothing. Not a dime.
Who wrote the appeal to the Innocence Project?
Nobody. I wrote one of the guards at the jail where Marvin was, told him about the Innocent Project. And so I wrote a letter to them. They immediately answered the letter. But I guess by being in so much stress and pain, they told me what they needed. And right then I didn't send it because I guess it's unbelievable that they had answered me. And then they wrote me another letter. And I sent them what they needed, and they took his case. They worked on his case for 10 years.
Wow.
And one of the law he had, I think it was every quarter, so he would have new law students. So they kept me posted and called and wrote letters and everything. And this particular law student, her name was Bridget Burns. And they were getting ready to close his case because they said that they had been on all the avenues and they just didn't have anything. They had nowhere else to go. And to my understanding, Bridget told him, you can't do that. His mother has worked on this case so hard. You just can't do that. And she said, call the head of the forensic science in Richmond, because you had talked to him and worked on him with a case before. His name was Paul Ferrero. And he called him and he looked it up. He went and got his file. That's how they found out with this file in the archives that everything they had was taped in the back. That's how they found out. And then the guy said, holy cow, I have everything right here.
Wow.
And then that went to testing. And it all came back to the guy that we knew that committed the crime.
Wow. How long, once the DNA came back, did it take for you to then be exonerated? What was the process after that?
First, they had to bring her back. The detective had to go out. She had moved to another state, and she did not want to come back. But the detective went out there, and they got her, and they brought her back. And they put her on the stand. And we missed one thing. The guy that really committed the crime, he had wrote a letter to the judge and asked if he could come to court so he could set the Anderson family free. And he told them what he had done. And the judge said, you're always writing letters and telling lies. So they paid that no attention whatsoever. That was with his second or third attorney. So that was the end of that.
And all of that took place within 6 years of me being incarcerated.
Right.
So this was early on my incarceration.
9 years later.
When he wrote the letter saying that he committed the crime. And
they brought him to court.
Yeah, and then when he testified that day in court, he described what happened word for word to what the victim testified to in court. And in 3 different preliminary hearings, he testified word for word. And the only way someone can do that you had to be there. You had to be involved to almost testify word for word to what the victim testified to.
And he said, Judge, you know that I committed this crime.
Wow.
And the judge said, then he says, you're right in court. You're always lying and telling lies. I will never forget it as long as I live. You know, this guy, I guess he just wanted the truth be known. He had did that to a girl around the corner from us at Randolph-Macon College. But the only part that hurt that was she passed out. So, you know, and people saw him. People that saw him steal the bicycle, they came to court.
Wow.
Because they said how he was acting with the girls on the street, you know, at the car wash, just saying ugly things or what he'd do to them. And if he asked for it and they don't give it to him, he'd take it. And I mean, he was just awful. And so all of that was what hurt me so bad. Because we had people that didn't see him, but they know what his intentions was.
Right. Right.
And it was on a wooded area that people traveled from the apartments to the shopping center every day.
Wow. So, you spent 15 years in prison, correct?
Yes.
Then you were paroled.
Yes.
What made you keep fighting once you got home? Because at that point you spent 15 years, you had 200 whatever years they gave you as sentencing, but now you're free. You're home. You're with your family. You.
Not free.
What made you keep fighting?
Is that me or him?
Me.
Both of y'all.
He wasn't free. He wasn't free.
Right.
He wasn't free. He was on parole. And that name will go with him for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
A rapist.
And you had to register on the sex
Right.
offender.
You can't in the community. Nobody wants you in the community. You know, he wasn't free.
Mm-hmm.
He was just out,
Mm-hmm.
and he came out with stipulations.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he had to go to a therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I take him once a week to the therapy, $75 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And what the therapist told me, he says, one thing I can tell you, Miss Anderson, is this: your son is not a rapist. He said, I got some coming here. He said, but he's not one.
Mm-hmm.
And then even to the point, after they found the DNA, he asked if he needed to come to court
Mm-hmm.
to speak on Marvin's behalf. You know, so you come out on parole, you're never free. You got a little bit more freedom, but you got to watch your back. You can't make no missteps. I mean, you know, because you're like a target.
Mm-hmm.
But we had people in the community, black and white, that really went, you know, they even talked to the judge about that. I mean, we lived in a nice community and everybody knew Marvin and knew my family, but people knew that it wasn't true. It wasn't true. And so, but, you know, I had to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Got to keep going. Got to keep going. Because
what was your reason?
Just the simple fact that, you know, as long as I would have those charges in my file, I would be known as a sex offender. I wouldn't be able to apply for a decent job because I was a convicted felon.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, but what people fail to realize that when a person goes to prison, it's not just the individual that's going inside that prison, whether it's a man or female. It affects the entire family of that individual. And what I mean by that is, even when I was there, you know, my sisters, they all were still receiving the flack.
Mm-hmm.
And they are free. Nothing, I mean, they did nothing wrong.
Right.
But yet they still had to not only protect themselves, but trying to protect my innocence as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that they went through. I spoke to my older sister several times about it, and she explained all of that to me. You know, you was there, we was in prison as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's one of the things that a lot of people in our society fail to realize. You know, when an individual goes into prison, it doesn't just affect the individual. But when you have an innocent person goes into prison system, it really does affect not only that person, his family, but the whole community as well. Because our justice system is actually telling them that we don't care about you. You know,
and if it doesn't work for you, how can I be confident that it's going to work for me?
So
It didn't work for you. So how do I know that it's going to work for me in any kind of circumstance, right? It perpetuates the fear. It doesn't create it because we are already fearful, right? But
Right,
it
right.
perpetuates the fear that already exists because it's wrong so many times.
And you know, when the girls was in school, a lot of their children that went to school with them, their parents was on the what do they call it when you
PTA or the school board?
No, when they were when they had to have the what's my mind just went a blank, when they had to have the the 12 people.
Oh, the jury.
The jury.
Mm-hmm.
Their kids went to school and they would say, I'm sorry about what happened. My mom said that she was sorry about what happened to your brother. You know, but I felt that when he was exonerated, they all should have put something on Facebook how sorry they were.
Facebook didn't exist then.
Well, whatever. Well, they still can do it. Say that how sorry they were that they made a mistake because they
didn't. That's like the memes, on Facebook nowadays that go around. We've been saying it for years. They just put it on social media, but your apology needs to be as loud as your offense.
Right. It's like about a month ago, I was pulling out a big box with all of Marvin's transcripts in it. Mm-hmm. And I was reading what the Commonwealth attorney said about they shouldn't parole him because, he was like an animal and the crime was so heinous and everything. And so I said, well, you know what? The assistant Commonwealth attorney has apologized to him and to me. Mm-hmm. The Commonwealth attorney says, let me just look him up and see if he's still living. He had time. He died in 2016. He had time enough to apologize, but he didn't. Mm-hmm. He said some mighty ugly things in the courtroom.
Right.
He said some mighty ugly things about him being an animal, and I'm his mother. Like, I didn't have any animals, Mm-hmm. But it seemed to me that his assistant apologized. So, he had 15 years to come out and apologize for the mistake. Well, he want to claim it's a mistake that he made, but he didn't do it. He took it to his grave. Yeah. So I don't think that was manly at all.
How do you guys find joy now?
Well, life is good, but it doesn't go away. Mm-hmm. I can be driving along the road and it just hit me and I'm thinking about it. Mm-hmm. I can be driving along the road, it hits me. I'm thinking about Maurice in the car accident. Mm-hmm. So some things never go away, but you continue to live. I got other children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren that I love a whole lot. Mm-hmm. But some things in life you just don't forget. It's even like with my mom and dad. My mom's gone 3 years, my dad's gone 9. You don't forget it. I think about them. I drive along and it's peaceful when you're driving along, you think about it. But my children all have thrived and doing very well for themselves, except for Maurice, because he's gone on. But they think about it. We look at pictures. We have pictures of visiting him. I was looking at pictures the other day. Mm-hmm. Even with their little kids like this, and he's taking pictures with them. So it's something that never goes away. Mm-hmm. It's going to be there forever. And I don't know what he thinks about it. He says he's not angry. But
that was my next question. Marvin, are you angry?
Look like that anger just don't leave me.
Your mama's a firecracker, baby. Let me tell you.
Now, Kimberly, I warned you a couple
I know,
days
yes,
ago.
you did. And I love every second of it. Listen,
That
I am here for it.
Yeah,
Yes.
it don't leave me. I mean, it's better than what it was, but not too much better. But it just don't leave me because it still keep happening. Yeah. So
for me, you asked me earlier on during the podcast that, at that time, what was that my hopes and dreams? And I mentioned the fire service. Well, once I had the DNA test come back and exonerated me from the crimes, I was able to apply to the fire academy. I did graduate from the fire academy. I went to the very same fire station that I grew up in, that I started hanging out around when I was 10 years old. And within 2 years, 3 years there, I became the chief of that station and retired 2 years ago from that station.
Yes.
So that was one of my dreams, hopes and dreams that I wanted to do as a teenager. I've always wanted to follow in my dad and my uncles and grandfather's footsteps owning a trucking company. I did that. I held that company for 20 years. So I didn't allow me being inside stop me from having my hopes and dreams. I went in trying to take full advantage of all the opportunities I could get in there. And it also helped me, free my mind, always think positive and move forward. I did that. I was able to complete my high school diploma, 2 years of college. I'm a certified welder, mechanic, and carpenter. So I took advantage of my situation. It helped me move forward. Coming home, I made a promise to myself that I'm going to spread this word about the injustice that we have in our society. You have people that, even to this day, that wants to go back to 300 years. What happened to me, it happens every day in almost every city. It happens. And for the prosecutors and the Commonwealth attorneys and the cities, the counties, the biggest issue that we have with the injustice is that when they are wrong, no one wants to admit that it's wrong. Because once you admit that you are wrong about something, and all the people who are still incarcerated that are innocent, once they prove their innocence, you have to sue, or that state has to give compensation, and they do not want that. Now, we have some states that the Policy Department Innocent Project, not only just in New York, but throughout the United States, that's one of the issues that we are fighting now, to try to have the Commonwealth attorney, the prosecutors, as well as the judges, attorneys, whether as they paid or legal, to be held accountable.
Did you receive compensation for the time that you stayed in prison?
And you mentioned compensation. I did receive compensation, but here's the story with that. The day that I went to, in the state of Virginia, you cannot sue the state. So you have to get a state representative to submit a bill to have this done. Well, the day that I went in to submit my bill and to argue my point, there was a horse stable here in Virginia that had caught on fire. And they had a state representative represent a bill to rebuild this horse stable. Okay. Now, the bill that he submitted to the state was over $2 million. They passed that bill. When it came to my petition, they wanted to offer me $75,000
for 15 years of wrongdoing, 20 years of wrongdoing.
Yes, yes. That's what the state wanted to offer me. And the reason they say that because they claimed that it wasn't their fault that I got incarcerated.
What's that for?
Now, think about it.
Aren't the police officers representatives of the state, though?
And the Commonwealth's of attorneys, they are representatives of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
So, for that situation right there, it showed me that our society value a animal life more than a human being life. They value lies before they value truth. And this is a society that we live in.
But we have a good state senator. Well, he passed on, Senator Benjamin Lambert, and he proposed a higher amount, much, much higher.
Mhm.
And they ended up agreeing to that. And then they says, well, Miss Anderson, if you got your receipts, I guess we'd have to pay you too. Well, I didn't have no receipts, right? So he gets a check for the rest of his life, But it's not what some states give. I just found out Wednesday night that I know Alabama was the last state to come on board with the Innocent Project. I just found out Wednesday night that South Carolina does not have an Innocent Project. This lady's husband just came out of jail, and she said that he's working on it, but South Carolina does not have an Innocent Project. And I thought all the states now had an Innocent Project. But she said South Carolina doesn't have it. But her husband, he's working on with some people to form an Innocent Project there. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but a lot of states like New Orleans, Louisiana, they don't want to give anything. Yeah, it's crazy. It's not their fault.
So you asked, how am I not angry? Like I said, I was brought up old fashioned, and for me, if I were to come back at the time that I came home and walk around being mad, angry at the world of something that they couldn't change, then I couldn't move forward. I've always, from the time I went in, I've always tried to say, hey, you coming home, you just don't know when. It's going to happen. So trying to build not only a better person for myself, but to build a life that I could be comfortable with and move forward, keep moving forward. Once I was exonerated and through the Innocent Project, it allowed me to not only speak my mind, it allowed me to speak the truth, and it allowed me to speak about the injustice that we face every day. I get a lot of my joy when I speak to youth, because the fact that in society today, a lot of parents, black or white or Hispanic, does not tell their kids the real world. It's a conversation they would avoid to have than to have their child go out there and face it and not prepared for it. So that's how I get my joy. It's talking to the youth and trying to explain to them, what happened to me can happen to you on any given day.
We talk a lot about the talk that we have as Black parents, Joan, and it's unfortunate that we have to have the conversations about how our children should interact with police officers, what they should do, shouldn't do, what if you get pulled over. Did you ever have that conversation with Marvin prior to all of this?
Not really, because I didn't feel that I needed to. Because like I said, it wasn't a lot of this going on in Richmond. The worst thing was, it was this one man, his name was Earl Washington. And he got accused of something that he really didn't do, and he's really I don't know what to say about Earl. He's not. He was a little bit below normal. And the Innocent Project,
Technically challenged, is that what you're saying?
yeah, the Innocent Project worked on his case.
Mm.
Yeah, and they got him. They cleared him, and I think that was about the worst thing that I could remember. I remember years and years ago that a doctor in the family got killed, and they never found out who killed them, and just little stuff like that. But when it came down to something as big as this, that was awful. And like I said, Marvin is the 99th person in the United States of America to be exonerated by DNA, the first in the state of Virginia. So at least Virginia knows that it'll come back. You know? You know, yeah, we know that they will use DNA. DNA is the best thing that has ever happened to man. Now, no one person, no two people got the same DNA. So when they said DNA would be admissible, I didn't know nothing about DNA, but I surely found out real soon what DNA would do. We even went to New York to the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. Jim Watson and his friend Francis Crick were the ones claiming to discover DNA where it would be admissible to exonerate a person rather than to put them in jail, because that's what the blood test was about, putting you in jail. But now it exonerates you. And so I thank God for that. I really, really do, because that's the best thing that could have happened.
But that also goes to the fact that even today, and not only some states, but a majority of the states, that you have commonwealth attorneys and prosecutors that will fight to have DNA testing. It also goes back to that, like I said, they use DNA testing early on to convict a person.
Right.
But they will fight you tooth and nail when it comes to trying to exonerate a person.
Right.
And that's something that we face, like I said, still today. Right. That's one of the things that the Innocent Project has always been battling against. We continue to fight for that because scientifically, it's life, it's facts, it's real.
Right.
And even they're using it in different countries, because we have people come from like Taiwan and places that here for conferences and things that I guess Barry and Peter, they've gotten together with the attorneys over there, and so they're using DNA in different countries to have people exonerate, and so we've met with like 2 or 3 different men from, I know one was from Taiwan, and I don't know whether it was Japan. Well, anyway, they come here because they've been exonerated. So they come to the conferences that we have here, and but I just thank God for DNA, and I just thank God for all the men, even black and white or whatever color you are, that has been exonerated, and the women, not leave out the women, that has been exonerated by DNA, and him being on the board. One man said the other night, he says, "Oh, I look like I've been on the board forever. They just won't let me off the board." She said, "You're not going anywhere." And then she looked at Marvin. She said, "And you're not going anywhere either." It's, 2 young black men and 2 young white men in the state of New York started the Innocent Project, Barry Shack and Peter Newsell. And those guys are getting up there, they're like in their 70s. So, and then we have some really, really good young lawyers that's coming behind them that's fighting, and you see them on TV that they worked on cases and people are being exonerated. So, it's just been truly a blessing. It's been truly, truly a blessing. Some people might get exonerated and some people may not, but it's a blessing when you do. You know,
And this conversation has truly been a blessing to us, to our community. Your story, your willingness to share, to just be transparent. This has to be one of the most painful periods of both of you guys' life. And so to have the courage to continue to share your story, to continue
right?
to put the word out there on what is going on is so important. Before we end this evening, though, I want to know what's happening now. So you said you have 3 children.
Oh yes.
You can't forget about them.
I have a daughter and 2 sons, and also my daughter has two boys of her own. So I'm a grandfather. Um, I am now working with the county in the school education department. I'm a mechanic, but it gives me the opportunity to talk to the high schoolers when I'm around them. So I'm good. I'm able to enjoy some of the sports activities that I couldn't do when I was raising my kids as a single parent and working and being a fire chief. Now that I retired from those, I'm able to do some things for myself.
And sold his truck.
Uh-oh.
Mark, we won't let that go.
Oh,
Um,
no.
so I've always, like I said, she mentioned earlier that I was raised around motorcycles. I used to race motorcycles, but I no longer do that. But
Amen.
I taught them how to ride.
but I spent a lot of my free time with he was one of my dad's best friend when I was growing up. And I spent a lot of my time with him on weekends, and we go to the racetrack. He built a race car years ago, so his grandson is actually driving the car. He's trying to talk me into driving the other car, but I don't know yet. Anyway, I spent a lot of times with family, enjoying some of the things that I wasn't able to do early on when I came home. Like I said, I got a chance to actually see and understood some things that my dad, before he passed, would say to me, because I'm seeing it through my boys. They would do something sometimes that I would sit there and just look at them, and I'm like, my dad used to tell me all the time, "You are not doing anything any different than what I did," and I would laugh it off, saying, "Oh, Dad, you didn't do this," but I see it in my boys, so I understood what he meant. Life is 360. Everything revolves in a circle. And I'm seeing that through some of the things that my boys do, and I'm just enjoying it. Enjoying it. I think one of the questions you had asked me earlier on, how do I feel about being around police officers? Do I feel timid and all of that? When I had my truck and come, I got pulled over in south part of Richmond, and it was a state trooper. She pulled me over. She wrote me up for a speeding ticket, and when I went to court, I love a good challenge. So after going through everything I've gone through, I get to court, and she's explaining to the judge what happened and all that. And the judge looked at me and go, "Mr. Anderson, I'd like to hear your side." And I said, "Your Honor," I said, I was coming off the ramp, getting onto the interstate, and that lane right there is for you to either speed up or slow down and let traffic go past you. I said, I chose to speed up. I got ahead, and that was it. She said I was running 70 miles per hour in a 55 zone. Now, I'm driving an 18-wheeler track trailer, okay, with a trailer fully loaded, and there's no way possible you can get that much speed coming off a ramp. So the judge asked the young lady, what else happened? And she said, well, when I pulled him over, he kept saying that he wasn't speeding. He said, okay, and was he speeding? Did you have a radar or anything? She said, no, Your Honor, I didn't have a radar. It's just that when he came off, he was passing everybody else. All right. So the judge didn't ask her, was there any other infraction that you had with his vehicle?
Mm-hmm.
He said the only other thing that he only had one license plate, and on the rear of his vehicle, it had Jesus on the back. And the judge looked at me and looked at her and said, is this the only reason, the only other infraction that you had on his vehicle? He said, what year is the vehicle? She said, it's a brand new truck.
Mm-hmm.
So you mean to tell me that you pulled this man on because he was coming off of getting on the interstate, because traffic was moving slower than him getting on the interstate, and you thought he was speeding?
Mm-hmm.
But she kept going back to the license plate that it had Jesus on it. I ended up getting that charges dismissed. And before I walked out of the courtroom, the judge goes, Mr. Anderson. I turned around and I looked at him. He said, I know all about your case. Congratulations. You have a good day.
Mm.
So he knew about my situation, but, you know, it just showed me that there are still people that you can trust. I still believe in our law system. I just sometimes don't believe in the people that enforce our law system. I have my doubts because it happens too much.
Too often.
You know, it happens too much. But I have no problem with the police officers. I respect them. I respect the line of work that they do. I'm just not gonna put my full faith in you like I did before.
Gotcha. I got you. Well, we are at time. I do want to say that couple things. First of all, my son was released. They took
I
him
was
out.
going to ask you that. You know what I was going to ask you?
They took him out of the cop car. They did fingerprint him.
Okay.
They fingerprinted him, searched for warrants, and asked him if he had ever been arrested. He said he wasn't answering any questions. And because he refused to answer the questions, they fingerprinted him, but he has since been let go. And one of my closest friends was on the phone with him, and she's in Richmond. And I actually come to that area with some regularity, DC, Richmond. So please know that the next time I'm in the area, I am coming to get a hug from Auntie Joan.
Please do. Please do.
Because I need some of that. I need some of that mojo you got going on over there. I'm gonna hug you, Marvin, but I'm coming for Auntie Joan.
So what part of Richmond do you come?
So I come to the Richmond. She's on Overbrook area. Do you know what that's at?
Yeah.
No, Overbrook. No. Overbrook is right up the street. It's in the north side area. Yeah, that's about 7 minutes, 8 minutes, 10 minutes from me.
Y'all all talk the same. She says that all the time. I'm 7 minutes away. I'm like, just round it up. No, because it's 7 minutes.
10 minutes. 10 minutes. It could be Overbrook Road.
Yes, it's Overbrook. Mm-hmm.
Overbrook Road. So that's right down off of Chamberlain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right next to VCU or VUU, one of those.
VCU. Oh, Virginia
Union.
Yes.
10 minutes. 10 minutes from me.
Okay. Well.
Yeah. So when you come, just call and come here. So you can get your hug and maybe a pie or cake or something. Or some food.
Yes, ma'am.
So Marvin is like, and my children are, my girls are like, each one of them I can get to in 12 minutes. And then I can get to Marvin in about 25 minutes. So just come, and I'll have the whole crew here.
That's right.
With the dogs.
I'm certainly going to take you up.
Please do that.
Yes.
Please do that.
Yes. And Marvin, I want to introduce you to my girlfriend. Her name is Otisa, and she has 3 lovely boys. One of them is previously our intern, Jazz Miles. He has 2 others, and I would love to have you guys connect and just extend the family. They right around the corner from y'all.
Okay.
But Otisa is who stayed on the phone with my son while I did this. So I want to publicly.
That's a good friend.
I want to thank her for the blow by blow, because she texts me every blow by blow while I sat with you guys. So I am so appreciative to her, and I am appreciative of you guys and this conversation. It won't be the last time we see each other. And keep doing what you're doing. You know, keep
Thank
doing
you.
what you're doing.
I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed this. It's a lot of laughter and it's a lot of sorrow, but you know, it is what it is, and it's behind us in a sense, but still, it never goes away.
Yeah.
It never goes away. Yeah.
Join us next time. Thank you again, Marvin and Joan Anderson.
Thank you,
You're
Kimberly.
very welcome, and I'm so
Thank
happy
you.
about your son.
Me too.
Yes, yes.